Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I'd like to welcome you here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. We've got a great show in store for you today. Later in the program, we'll be joined by current Mingus Marauder football and basketball player Zach Figy, who talks about the 3 separate times he broke his collarbone and what we can expect from the Marauders this basketball season. We'll then be joined by former Mingus Union Marauder and current Northern Arizona University swimmer Emma Warner, who talks about her time in the pool at Mingus while going through thyroid cancer treatment. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Northland Prep Academy striker Mia Blair, who talks about playing for her father and alongside her sisters throughout her 4 years with the Spartans. All of that and a whole lot more on the other side of this break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Northland Prep striker for the girls soccer program, Mia Blair. Mia, welcome onto the show.
Thanks.
Well, the school and the last name might seem very familiar to some of you who watch the program. Her father, Michael, is the head coach of the girls soccer program over at Northland Prep Academy. You've been around soccer all your life. Obviously, your dad coaching at Northland Prep. You have sisters who have played in the program. You have a sister who is still playing in the program. And most of that time has been coached by your dad. So just kind of, let's start with that. Let's go, how has your dad being your coach throughout your entire soccer career not only developed you as a player, but helped to build your relationship with your father?
Yeah, so initially when I was younger, he was my club coach from a really young age. I was able to start playing soccer at age 5 with my older sister, but I broke my arm for my first season, so that knocked me out of that. But after that, I jumped right back in it, and I played on my older sister's team and my own team, and then my dad started coaching me. And I'm not going to lie, at the beginning, that was kind of rough just because sometimes I would come home and to my mom and just say, "Mom, he was so hard on me at practice," and just have a lot of different things to say along that vein. But as I grew, and especially through high school, I recognized how important it was that he did push me at such a young age. And even though my mom kind of got the brunt end of that when I was younger, it definitely helped grow me as a player because he pushed me into uncomfortable situations so that now I can go into a lot of different situations with a lot of different people and players and just say, yeah, put me on a soccer field. Let's play the game. I love it. I've grown up with it. And also having my family be involved from the beginning has really just been instrumental in how I feel about the sport, because I love soccer. I love playing, and I love that it's become a family thing for me. Because like you said, I have had my older sister on the team when I started high school season, freshman year. I was super excited for that. And then just starting off the season with her and being able to actually play with her again. And then my sophomore year, I tore my ACL, but I wanted to work really hard to get back in time to finish off the last couple weeks of high school season, because that was my last opportunity to play with her. And then I was able to get back in the game. And so state championship, I was able to play in there. And so that was really exciting, just with my dad and my older sister again. And then starting my junior year, my other sister decided to play, who was a sophomore at the time. And then this past year, I had that same sister. Her name's Jordan. She actually had some medical issues, so she wasn't actually able to play, but she did a lot of managing for the team. And then I had a freshman sister join the team. And so having all of that just throughout high school has been really amazing. And having my dad as my coach I think really also helped show the girls on the team that he cares for them when he pushes them, because he pushes me and my sisters just as hard, if not harder sometimes. And that's kind of how he shows he cares. But.
Yeah, no, I also kind of went down. I had a similar experience. My dad was my youth baseball coach up until my freshman year of high school. And then he left because he didn't necessarily he didn't want to coach anymore. So he was kind of done with it. But yeah, no, you kind of have to, not only as, on the field, obviously you're Mia Blair, the soccer player. You're a part of the roster. You're just another soccer player under Coach Blair's program that will get playing time, will be subbed out at some point, will have to practice like everyone else. Same thing with me, coach's son. I'm not as talented as you are in soccer as I was for baseball, so I didn't get really a chance to play too much. But when I got a chance to go out on the field, it was always sort of finding that sort of middle ground of being coach and dad, and my dad was the same way. A lot of long car rides explaining what I could have done differently, or, what I should have done in practice, or what we're going to be focusing on in practice. I definitely feel what you're saying there, but it's different when it's a parent, because you see them every day. You know where they're coming from, what they're trying to get across, as opposed to a stranger. You're not really sure where they're phrasing things, or maybe what their attitude towards certain things are. But with a parent, you're pretty much, you understand it, and you saw it with your older sister. Now you're seeing it with your younger sisters going through the program as well. You kind of think about families in sports, some of the names that pop out: the Mannings, the Williams sisters, the Hasselbecks, the Waltons, just some of the few of the names of sports. But I think the Blairs need to be added to that list, because what your dad and you and your sisters and everybody at Northland Prep has been able to put together is incredible, winning a significant amount more of a lot more championships than at least the Waltons. I can guarantee you that, because I think Bill Walton's the only one who's got a championship. Luke Walton didn't do. Actually, no, he won 2. Okay, well, whatever. You guys are still leading. Maybe the Williams sisters are the only ones you're not ahead of. But it is, you mentioned, kind of getting an opportunity to play alongside your sisters, young and old. Is it kind of like a rite of passage that you play for the soccer program and win a state title, or is that just kind of, we're having a good season, so we're going to win another one?
I guess you could kind of say a little bit of both. We definitely love winning, the Blair family. We like winning competition from an early age. But yeah, it's also kind of just, let's see how we can just completely dominate this season by working together, kind of in that regard. So it's also kind of the latter as well.
You put together an impressive resume at Northland Prep as you are graduating. Obviously, you were a senior this past soccer season. Some of the accolades, and I say some because there are a lot. You earned All-American honors, obviously. You were 2A Conference State Player of the Year as a freshman. You were student body president. You carried a 4.0 GPA. And also, like I mentioned, the state titles that you won, which I believe is it up to 3 now, 3 or 4? Something like that. It's 4. Okay, yeah. So all 4 years winning a state title, something that at least this guy has no idea about. But is there any kind of specific moment during your time at Northland Prep that you kind of hold dear to yourself?
Well, all 4 years were pretty amazing years.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed the high school. I enjoyed my soccer seasons in particular. And just, it's amazing how every year the team changes and the team dynamic switches. But our goal was always, how can we take that and make each year just as dynamic and even more so than the last? Right. So that was kind of our goal for soccer in particular within the 4 years. But I think that sophomore year really played an instrumental part in my life when I tore my ACL. It was actually at the end of my freshman year, but there was a time when I was a little bit discouraged, just because that's a hard thing, especially as an athlete. And I had been wanting to also play basketball with my older sister, but that didn't turn out so good because I had torn my ACL. Thankfully last year I was able to play. My coach was amazing. And it helps work different things to play another sport. But I think that tearing my ACL really just grew me as a person. And it also grew me in my faith, because that was and it was kind of like, all right, soccer has been my main drive, my main goal for a lot of my life. And when that gets taken away, what's left? And so for me, that was a deeper understanding of what it meant to follow Christ and kind of see where that where that just was my rock during that time. So that was pretty neat. But then that also kind of fleshed out in lots of areas because soccer, it made me more dedicated because I wanted to get back to play for the end of that season. I really wanted to make the state championship because so I don't know if you know this, but we only lost one game for the senior class this year. We only lost one game our whole career. And that game was against Chino Valley, who have been our rivals for a long time. And that was a home game, which it was a 1-0 loss. So that was a little rough. And I had to sit and watch from the sideline, and that because my ACL was torn. And so that was not the most fun game ever. I was silent the car ride home. My mom was like, oh, shoot, she needs a little bit of space, just because that was super hard. But my team worked really hard the whole season, and they encouraged me. And so I wanted to get back for my team, for my sister, and then to hopefully help in the state final. And so then we were able to win that. So I think that really was a great time for me, even though initially I thought, how can tearing my ACL be any good? Especially when I had all of these great goals and plans ahead of me. But I think it kind of slowed me down to remember what life is about, and then re-enter the sport and say, all right, let's do this. I'm going to play every game like it's the only thing that matters. And then just getting back on the field with my team was a really amazing experience. And my first game back was actually in the Round Valley Dome, which was a really cool game to play in, to have the first one back in the Dome, because not many teams get to play in that. So I think that was a pretty big moment for me throughout high school, and just how my teammates came alongside me and encouraged me. The first week after surgery, I had a couple friends bring me like some food and some meals and little just things to help me get by, like coloring books. And anyways, it was really great. And so it kind of helped us, and me in particular, see that my team can also be more than a team. And they really stepped in as kind of a family friend role during that time. So that was really a big moment in my high school career, especially with soccer.
Yeah, very much so. And you know, I can't imagine going through an ACL tear like that. Obviously, it kind of just speaks to the uncertainty of life, which is you may think you're going one way, but in reality, you're going a completely different way. And, you know, tearing your ACL when you're at basically just starting your soccer career at Northland Prep, you just won a state title, you're getting ready to come back your sophomore year. That happens. Thankfully, you were able to return for the state championship. And your junior year, you had probably your best year at Northland Prep, scoring 45 goals. You know, you talk about how important it was for you to make it back out on the field and you know, even thinking about, you know, okay, is this where my career ends? You know, where do I go from here? What do I focus on if I can't play soccer anymore? Do you have any advice for any players who might be going through an injury like that, or may have gone through an injury like that? Do you have any advice for them on, you know, just sort of how that process was for you?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because the year before, one of my friends who was a freshman that year tore her ACL. Then sophomore year, I tore mine. And then junior year, another friend tore hers. So we had 3 different ACL tears. It was kind of crazy. But the kind of neat thing about that was we were able to support each other really well because we just understood it on a different level. And something that was hard at first for me to kind of wrestle with when I had first torn it was that there were definitely days when I wanted to just yell and scream and just get all of my anger out, especially because for me, I had a soccer missions trip that I was supposed to go on within a month after my surgery. And they were like, oh, we don't know if you should go because you got to keep PT up and all that. And I said, I'm going, I'll do PT there. But that was super hard because soccer was all around me. Right. And that was like the purpose of the camp, to reach the girls in Guatemala actually is where it was. And so even though that camp was for them and soccer and Jesus for them, it really impacted me in a different way because I wasn't able to play the sport I loved. And I think that that's a hard thing for athletes when they get injured, is just that the sport is taken away from you for a little while. But I think that the most important thing to remember is that this is kind of where your dedication starts coming through, because for each of us, and we've had multiple other injuries happen on the team, but we still showed up to practices. Every day we could be there, we were there. If we had PT or something else to help us get back, that was great, but we had to let the team know. Just kind of remembering that they were our support system and they helped us get through. And that's just where the dedication shows, because you got to be dedicated to your physical therapy to get back. You got to be dedicated to your teammates and to the game, because you have to still know your team, because each year the dynamic changes a little bit. So you have to keep putting yourself into the team and creating opportunities to get to know one another, because you can't do it necessarily while you're playing on the field. But I think that even though it can get discouraging when you tear something or when you get an injury, that to remember your team should have your back, and my team definitely always did. And so just having like that encouragement was really amazing, because they encouraged me to be dedicated to them and to the sport, which helped get me through for sure.
Definitely some wonderful words of inspiration from Mia Blair, former Northland Prep soccer player over at Northland Prep Academy in the northern part of the state. Mia, we just got a few more seconds here. You're going to be taking your college. You're going to be playing soccer at the college level over at Wheaton College for Coach Felsky, who is one of the most winningest coaches in NCAA history. So you're transitioning from Coach Blair to Coach Felsky, the first time you've ever not had your dad coach you. Before we let you go, is it going to be a little weird not seeing your dad on the sidelines as a coach?
Yeah, so that's definitely where I hope to be at Wheaton, and it would be weird, but I think that the coach that I would be transitioning to would be a really great coach and role model, just the same way my dad was.
Very much so. Well, Mia, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. It was great talking with your dad. It's great speaking with you. We wish you nothing but the best of luck at Wheaton College, and hopefully you'll get that freshman season over there at Wheaton and lead them to an NCAA championship and transition your winning ways from high school to the college level over in Illinois and win a few championships there. But Mia, thank you very much for stepping in. And again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back off the bench, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now not by Randy Savage, but by current Mingus Union basketball and football player Zach Figy. Zach, welcome onto the show, man.
Thank you.
Well, we are happy to have you, and love the sunglasses, by the way. That's where the Randy Savage comment came from. Last year, you suffered a broken broken collarbone, not once, but 3 times throughout your junior year playing football and basketball. Your football career, your junior year, was pretty much done. You were able to come back and play basketball and also come back this year and play football. How important was it to you when you broke your collarbone to get back out on the field and keep playing?
Very. I've played football since I was 5 or 6 years old. When I was really young is when I started. And I started basketball even a year earlier than that. So sports have kind of been in my family and for me my whole life. So it was really important. Once I broke it once, I was like, I just have to get back to be able to play. Like that was the number one goal, like get the strength back. So I was really glad when I came back. And then unfortunately I broke it again in practice. And then so I had to fight through it again, went through it, and actually got lucky and got to play some games my junior year. And then sadly I broke it in a game again, but it was all good. I got better by basketball and got to play basketball.
Well, like you said, the important thing was getting back out on the field, and you kind of had some experience breaking your collarbone, considering you had done it earlier, and
Yeah.
then you did it twice, and now you basically are good. So I'm pretty sure if you ever break your collarbone again, you'll know what to do and how to repair it and how to get back to doing what you were doing. But last year, in your shortened season, you did accomplish a lot. You had a few really, really great games defensively, but offensively, you put up a very interesting statistic. During a game in September against Lee Williams, myself and Nick Yatsenko were calling the game, and Zach Harrison, current quarterback for the Mingus Marauders, had went down for, I think, like just a play, and it was around the goal line. And we were curious who was going to come in to play quarterback, because technically at the time, the second listed quarterback was, I believe, Andrew Wharf, I think was his name.
Austin Wharf, yeah.
Austin Wharf, excuse me. Yeah, Austin Wharf. And so we were kind of the impression, okay, Austin's going to come out there, maybe play for a little bit until Zach's back and ready to go. But then we saw that number 24 hustle over to the huddle, and it's like, wait, that's Zach Figy. What's Zach Figy doing at quarterback? And you know what Zach Figy's doing at quarterback is going 1-for-1 with a touchdown against Lee Williams. Just kind of take us into the huddle. Were you always kind of the quiet backup quarterback? What was the play always supposed to be a pass? What happened there? Was there an audible switch at the line? Just take us into the huddle during that time.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was shocked when they called my name to go in.
So were we.
Because I was a quarterback my freshman year, and we had a really good season my freshman year. Sophomore year, I came in and I was like, I couldn't play defense if I was an offensive player, especially as the quarterback. So it's like, I don't want to play quarterback. I didn't tell anybody that. I told someone, I told our old varsity coach, Coach Young, hey, I don't want to play quarterback anymore. I want to play defense. And he went with it, and then Coach Ortiz came in my sophomore year, and I got a little bit of reps my sophomore year as a quarterback, but not really. I probably got maybe 50 reps that whole season at practice. Junior year, I didn't get any reps at quarterback. So when he told me I was coming off the sideline to go in, I was kind of shocked. I was like, I haven't ran any reps. I hadn't been doing anything. The only thing I had done is thrown, because I couldn't do anything with my collarbone. So all practice, I would just sit there and just throw as far as I could every day.
Yeah.
And I remember, but so they called me and they said, hey, you're going to go in for the play. And I was like, all right, cool. I can do it. And I remember he told me, he said, we're going to run trips right. And then Peter's going to be on the left by himself. He told me the 3 routes on the right. And he said, Peter, run whatever you want, basically. And I was running out, and Peter, he was like, yeah, I'm not getting the ball. And he got open on the left side, and I saw him, and I was like, well, give him to Peter. He's got the best hands.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to catch the snap, and I dropped it, and I picked it up, and I saw Peter, and I just threw it. And it ended up being a good ball, hitting him on the back shoulder when the kid was on the other shoulder, and he was able to catch it. And I was, just kind of worked, and I was like, all right, cool. I still got it. I can still sling around.
Yeah, tossing it up to Clutch Calandra, as we called Peter Calandra last year at Mingus Union. Yeah, of course, having a reliable receiver like that. And you clearly had obviously previous experience being a quarterback at the lower levels, and then, telling Coach Young you didn't want to, well, maybe not expressing it out loud, but not really wanting to be the quarterback anymore, making it to the defensive side of it. But it's kind of weird how, even though you wanted to stay as far away from the quarterback position as possible, you probably have the highest quarterback rating of any Marauder ever with your 1-for-1 with a touchdown. But let me ask you this, Zach, put these in order for me. What ranks higher, throwing a touchdown pass, catching a touchdown pass, or making a goal line stop on 4th and 1?
I'm a defensive player, personally. I like defense. Skill set wise, I'm definitely an offensive player, like just body build and everything.
Right.
Like everyone told me my whole life, play quarterback, because I have the brain to do it. I got the body to do it. I got blessed with a good body. But it's the goal line stand on 4th and 1. That's what gets me, because defense is where it's at. It's like offense can win you games, but defense is where you win championships. So.
That's right. The motto of the 85 Bears, definitely.
Yep.
Defense wins championships, and the Marauders had a very strong defense despite their record this past season. You enter a new year with a new coach. Coach Ortiz unfortunately leaves Mingus Union High School. You instead get an opportunity to play under Coach Provenzano in your final year at Mingus Union High School. When Coach P took over the program, what were your sort of first initial impressions of him, and how has he developed you as a player?
My first impressions were like, he's a good guy, and he's a good coach. He's a good, very, very good strength and conditioning coach. And I was kind of worried about his football coaching not motto, but just the way everything kind of came in. Because I did a little bit of research and I looked back at the jobs he's had in the past years and like why was he looking for a job? And I know like his stats don't look good, like statistically job wise in the past. He's had 4 jobs in the past 7 years. So it doesn't look good, but he knows his stuff for sure. I was nervous because it's my senior year, new coach. He's going to come in, want to rebuild the program, sit people down. And, and we didn't experience that. He just moved players around so he could develop players. Yeah. But I had a good first impression of him. I liked his fit training program a lot. It helped the results kind of showed like in the weight room, like people we started off and they were maxing at 185-pound bench, and like not even a month later they were hitting 205, 215, 225 and getting their numbers were up. Yeah. So his fitness program really impressed me, and that kind of just has set it for me, like he's a good coach and he can make the program good.
Yeah, and he definitely has. The Marauders going in your junior year 0-18 after a very successful season your sophomore year, and then Coach Provenzano stepping in. As we've discussed before, I've talked with Coach Provenzano. I've had him on the pregame shows, and you do make a good point. While you can look at his job record and go, wow, this guy's in and out of a job almost every 2 years. But when you look at what he's done with those programs in that short time, it's very impressive. I mean, even Mingus Union, last year going 0-10. It seemed like 2020 was going to be just a nightmare of a year. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and then it was a guaranteed nightmare of a year. Right. But Marauders come in and, the first 3 games of the season, you guys held opponents to 0 points. That includes Flagstaff High School, a team that had no issue with the Marauders in 2019. But Coach Provenzano stepping in and making those changes really turned you guys around. And then, of course, you do earn that victory against Mojave 69-0. How did it feel for you going 0-10 the season before to finally get that victory against a Mojave team another team that Mingus sort of struggled against? And it was a very close game. And, there was a little bit of a scuffle at the end, and there was a question about the clock. And, it didn't necessarily end the best, but the Marauders able to get a huge victory in week 3 or 4, I believe, against Mojave. Just for you as a player, Zach, what did it mean to finally get a victory and just kind of get that monkey off your back?
It was really nice. My sophomore year, actually, when Ortiz's first year, I was supposed to be a JV player. Typical sophomore comes in, going to be a JV player. Right. And I remember about 2 weeks before the first game, one of our varsity linebackers got hurt, and they came to me and said, "Hey, you're going to be on varsity. You're going to be a linebacker. You're going to come up and play." And I was kind of shocked. I'm a good-sized kid, but I was an undersized sophomore. So I was on the team that went 9-2, and it was a real good team with Kendrew and Antoine and Chaz. So I'm used to winning. Like I'm not a kid that's used to losing. If I've only ever had before high school, I never had a losing football season.
Wow.
And I always I've never had a losing had a losing season at quarterback. So I don't know how to lose. I've definitely learned, but it comes with life. But I was really good to get the win. And it was the first week we played Flagstaff. They beat us 7-0. We should have won that game. Yeah. Our offense just needed a little bit of work, and we really focused on our defense. We lost our defensive coordinator a couple weeks before our first game, so we were focusing on defense because we had a new defensive coordinator and a new scheme. So holding them to 7 was definitely an accomplishment for us because they have that really good running back. I can't remember his name. Yeah, number 34. He was real good. Yes. So holding them to 7 points was a real accomplishment. We played Mojave week 2 and beat them 69-0, which that was a big win. That was good for us to get that win. I don't know if you noticed, the first game I was a defensive end, and I've been a middle linebacker my whole life. Mm-hmm. And I was not fighting with the coaches, but like, hey, put me in middle, put me in middle, put me in middle. And against Mojave, they put me in middle linebacker, and I was like really happy, with it. I was glad to be back in my position, and we got the win. It was a big win. We were all real happy. Week 3, we played River Valley because Combs got canceled on us. We got up 15-0 in the first half, and we were bound. I believe it was 15-0 early in the second quarter, maybe even at the end of the first, and we should have kept putting it on. But I don't know what happened. And then our defense gave up, and they ended up beating us 22-15. But between the first 3 games, our defense was averaging giving up 9.6 points a game and we were scoring 7 points a game. Every game we had a turnover, 4 touchdown, which really showed us what our problem was, that we needed to get our offense to be able to move the ball and everything, which, you know, once you do that, once you can get both team sides working together, it's great. But we just really struggled with getting both to mesh, because then week 4 we started giving up a lot more points, but our offense was moving the ball and we were putting points on the board. So I was really glad to get the win, to answer your question, but you know.
No, it was a great season. You know, as I mentioned, you know, Nick Yatsenko and I, we just kind of point out that we just watched this team grow from a team that was 0-10 and really kind of not necessarily looking at a bleak future by any standards, but just sort of like, how long was this rebuild going to take? How long was it going to be till Mingus was back on top of the region? But, you know, as you mentioned, it seemed like week after week, the Marauders just kept improving and getting better. And as you mentioned, the struggles were still there. Of course, still a pretty relatively young team. You were a part of a relatively small senior class compared to other teams here in the region, a very important senior class as you, Drew Meyer, Jonathan Sanchez, Elian Martinez, Colin Vachon, newcomer Lee Locknane, Mark Kinsley Similian. There was a bunch of guys who were impact players who were leaving this year. But I think you guys have left the team in good hands. I think Coach Provenzano this coming season will be quite interesting. You talk about that weight program. He'll hopefully get a full offseason to get the new guys going and the current guys who are going to still be there. Obviously, Zach Harrison's still there and Freddie Jimenez. You know, you still got those core pieces there. But, you know, kind of speaking about that senior class, how did you guys grow over the past 4 years? I know that you are close with some of the guys in that senior class.
You know, that senior class is a little bit different for me. Like, it's hard to say, because me, Drew Meyer, and Jonathan Sanchez have never played on a different football team. We've always been on the same football team since we were 6 years old. Like, we were on the little league Lobos, the Bears, won a championship there, went and played middle school ball, and then got to high school. We've always been on the same team. So all 3 of us have really grown together, like, over the years, like, playing wise. We might not be like the best of friends and, like, you know, buddy. I know me and Drew are actually family. So, you know, I'm kind of stuck with him to say. But, like, Jonathan, you know, we might not hang out all the time, but we both have each other's back and everything. So we've really grown close. And then Colin, he was with us from the Bears on, always with us. Lee, he's new, but we just kind of grew together and decided to play with it, you know. Yeah. We were like, you know, we have to make the best of it. And we got each other. So either we're going to accept what we got and do what we can do, or we're going to sit here and complain and get nothing done. So,
you know, as I mentioned, Zach, you also play basketball for the Mingus Marauders going into your final year with the Mingus Marauder basketball team. You know, do you kind of find a difference in preparation mentally from when you go to the football field to the basketball court?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like, football, I'm not a hype kid. Like, I don't know, like, you could tell if you watch the huddles, everyone's jumping around, getting hyped. I'm just kind of like, all right, cool, let's go play. I'm not really a hype kid, like, get hyped before the game, go out and play good. I'm just kind of mellow, and then once the first hit goes, then I'm good to go. Yeah. But it's definitely different, because in football, you're preparing yourself. You got to read this, you got to read that. Basketball's a lot different, because most of the time it's like, instead of worrying about the running back, the quarterback, the receivers, and your job, like, if you play man, I know I always get put on the biggest guy, and don't let him get the ball, everything for basketball. So it's more of football's more of a team sport. It's like the ultimate team sport. Basketball is a team sport too, for sure. But for me in basketball, it's more like my job on defense is to not let my guy get rebounds and not let him put up points. Like, that's my job. And if I do that, then we can win games, especially in our region, because there's a couple big guys in our region that, you know, they're big. And when I say big, I mean 6'8", 6'9", like 6'10", real tall kids, real big kids. And if they get the ball, I'm a short little 6'4" guy. As weird as that sounds.
I'm 5'11". I don't know when 6'4" got to be short, but all right, okay.
But, you know, so it's like it's a challenge for me every game, and it's you know, I've always played football, and it was always my favorite sport. But basketball's a little more independent and a little bit. It's like more of a challenge for me. I'm a bull in the china shop. I like to lower my shoulder and put it up and go through people. So it's more of a challenge for me. So it makes me really, like, focus in and focus on what I'm doing. So it likes me just as like self-discipline, basically.
Yeah. You know, you do bring up a pretty good point, you know, getting an opportunity to see you play basketball last year for the Mingus Marauders. The comparison in terms of a player that I kind of get with you is Dennis Rodman. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, you're familiar with Dennis Rodman.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Long time Detroit Piston, San Antonio Spur. You know, obviously he made more of his money with the Chicago Bulls, but high energy is what I like to think. You know, a guy who a hustle player, a guy who will not be afraid to throw his body in there and grab rebounds or put up shots. I know you hit a three-pointer during one of the games, which was quite interesting, as you're not much of a three-point shooter, but inside you work quite well as a 6'4" senior now. But Dennis Rodman was kind of the player that I always looked at whenever you started playing, just because of the grit and grind. And I'm pretty sure that has to do with playing football and being tough inside. And as a low post player, you have to be tough inside because you are drawing a lot of contact around the paint, especially with guys who are 6'8" or 6'9" or 6'10". Before I let you go, Zach, is there anybody that you kind of compare yourself to, anybody that you look to as an inspiration for football and for basketball?
Well, I'll think on that while I'm saying this, but it's funny you mentioned Dennis Rodman. Actually, I was talking with one of the girls players that plays, and she's going to be one of their core players this year, Chase Dirksen.
Yeah.
And I had her in my English class before school got shut back down, and we were talking about it. And I've cut my hair, I got a mullet. Right. We were talking about I'm gonna dye my hair, and I'm gonna do like different colors. I'm gonna do the bright orange, the bright green, the bright pink, and I'm gonna be our Dennis Rodman to say. Okay. Me and Andrew Nair also talked about it. Like my job is to be our Dennis Rodman. I don't need to put up a bunch of points, but I just need to get every rebound, play as hard as I can every game. I'd say for basketball, like my inspiration for basketball would be my brother. He played a couple years back. He was, his senior year, he put up a lot of numbers, and it's like I've kind of looked at that, and I've kind of like competitive in the sense, hey, I want to beat him. Like I want to be number one, be on the top. But at the same time, it's like he was a lot taller. He's a lot better basketball player than me. But if I can play harder and put up a third of not a third, but like half the numbers he did, I'll be definitely happy with it. And for football, basketball also would be my Uncle Brandon. He passed away a while before I was born. But the reason I wear 24, same thing with my whole family, is because of him. He wore number 24. He was a real good basketball player. Still holds the scoring record at Wauseon High School for 42 points in one game, actually. So he's kind of like the motivation for basketball, him and my brother.
Very nice.
For football, I wouldn't say I have like a motivation player, like a motivation person that I really like. Like if my favorite football player ever would be Bo Jackson, even though he got hurt. Like but maybe my dad, because he always tells me stories. Like I was 2 years old sitting there on the deck and he would throw a football to me. And I'd catch it and I'd do this. And then ended up getting stitches in one of my eyes because he threw the football. I didn't catch it. I got a little baby picture when I got stitches in my eye because I got hit with the football. But football was just more of a personal thing. Like for me, like it was kind of like I wanted to play football. I remember begging my parents to go play football. But if I had to put a person on it, it'd be my dad for sure.
Now, I do apologize, Zach. We kind of are out of time. I know that you are also part of welding is also a very big part of your life as well. You were a part of Welders Without Borders. Let's just kind of go into this. Is going to be the final question. Actually, let's make it a two-parter. First, I'm really happy that we're seeing the mullet again for basketball season, and I cannot wait to see you dye it and just see what kind of crazy colors you get. But also, before we let you go, do you have any college plans? Where are you going after Mingus?
My plan is to just like kind of go into the workforce, see what happens. I've always thought about going into the oil fields, go out there, start my career out there, do 5, 6, 7 years out there, and then come back here or move to where I want to move after I've decided. Because Cottonwood's a little town and everyone's like, oh, I want to get out of here. And I'm not as much like I want to get out of here. It's just I want to see the world. I want to go other places. But I want to get into welding and fabrication of some sort, just because it's what I really enjoy. I don't plan on going anywhere to play any organized sports just because I do not like school at all. Like I'm a smart kid. School's not my cup of tea. But so my plan is just kind of go into the workforce.
Of course, and we wish you best of luck and great success. I know you're a very talented welder, and you've got a skill, and you're utilizing it. My roommate, Tevin, we've known each other since high school. Same way. Tried to do the college route, didn't work out. He's a plumber. He's very successful, and he loves doing his job. You got to follow what you love. I do the same thing here. I do what I love and get an opportunity to speak with players like you, Zach. And like I mentioned, man, we're excited to see when basketball season kicks around. Congratulations on completing your football career over at Mingus Union High School. We're going to miss Colin Figy over the middle with a couple touchdown passes, but best of luck, Zach. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again soon.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules, and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I am joined now by a former Mingus Union swimmer and current collegiate swimmer at Northern Arizona University, Emma Warner. Emma, welcome onto the show.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. You've been competitively swimming for years at the club level, at the college level, now at the collegiate level. What got you started in the sport of swimming?
I started when I was about 5 years old. My sister was on the Cottonwood Clippers, and so my parents just introduced me to it, thinking that it would just be a summer sport that I'd enjoy, but I ended up falling in love with it and continuing my career. I ended up dropping all the other sports that I was doing just so I could keep swimming, and I'm here where I am now.
Very much so. A very successful Mingus Marauder swimming. You accomplished a lot during your time over at Mingus Union High School. You carried a 4.0 GPA. You were the president of the National Honor Society. You were a school spirit leader, which I don't know what that means. A link crew leader, which also you might have to clarify for me as well. Member of the Mingus Captains Club. You currently hold the record for the 100 breaststroke at Mingus, and also, on top of a bunch of other stuff I didn't even list, you won Homecoming Queen in your senior year over at Mingus Union High School. Do you have a specific memory at Mingus that kind of stands out for you?
I think my favorite was being the state champion at the state championships this last year as a senior. That will always hold the highest pedestal for me. That is something that I think is my highest accomplishment, and I am very proud of that.
Well, let me ask you this: is it more fun to win a state title or win Homecoming Queen?
Definitely a state title.
Okay. I would assume so. I have done neither. So I kind of assume that the state title would be a little bit more fun. We mentioned your time over at Mingus Union High School. You got to play under Coach Gretchen Westbrook, who has been a guest on the show once, and she's been on our Mingus broadcast several times. Gretchen is great to speak with. How did she help in your development as a swimmer?
She always pushed me to work my hardest and to always put myself out there no matter what was going on, to get really involved. And I feel like that's what made my high school experience so good, is being able to be so involved in the school, but also being a captain for the swim team and being a member of the swim team really, really solidified my time at Mingus. And I'm really glad that I did that. I'm glad I did everything. And she pushed me to be involved in as many things as I possibly could.
During that, again, we were speaking with former Mingus Union High School swimmer Emma Warner. She is currently a collegiate swimmer over at Northern Arizona University in her first year with the Lumberjacks. When you were 12 years old, Emma, you got news that no parent wants to hear, no person wants to hear, and that you were diagnosed with thyroid cancer. But instead of taking time off or taking years off to go through treatment and step away from sports, you really, really wanted to keep swimming. You almost begged your parents to let you swim. And shortly after that news, you were back swimming with, I believe, it would have been the club team at that time, getting ready to go into your freshman year at Mingus Union. What went into that decision to want to keep swimming? It would have been so easy for you to not do so.
So when people are diagnosed with cancer, I feel like sometimes they do take a little back burner, and that's good for your health. Like, it's really good to take a mental awareness check and really take care of yourself. But for me, being in the pool is what made my health better. That's where all my emotions are able to get out. I can cry in the pool and nobody would know because I got my goggles on. It's my one happy place that I really don't have to talk to anyone because you can't talk underwater. And so I just wanted to get back in and prove that just because you have a disease does not mean that it's the end of the world. And despite the 3 surgeries that I've had, the 3 treatments that I've had, I've always just wanted to get back in the water and keep going, because I know that that's not just the breaking point. Like, there's always more to reach for. And that's what keeps my drive going. I always want to reach for the next biggest thing. So for me, it was breaking the record. Okay, I broke the record. Okay, now I want to win state championship. Okay, now I want to swim in college. I don't care if it's D3, D2, D1. I just want to swim in college. I got that. Now I just want to make the conference team here. I just want to be able to represent the Jacks at WAC and hopefully win our 8th title as WAC champions. And then from there, we'll create new goals. The goals just keep going.
Yeah, very much so. And I know you are still continuing your treatment with the battle against thyroid cancer, but I think it is incredibly inspirational that you didn't want to stop your life. As you mentioned, swimming is something that you utilize as a stress reliever. It gets out that competitive edge. It gives you an opportunity to sort of step away from that, because in the pool, I would assume you feel pretty invincible, especially considering all the things that you accomplished at Mingus and the things that you are currently, well, with COVID currently being a nightmare, but the things that you plan on continuing at Northern Arizona University. You signed an honorary letter of commitment to go to NAU when you were 12 years old. But you followed through with that commitment. It was an honorary commitment. You could have said, no, I want to go swim somewhere else, but you decided to stick with the Northern Arizona University Lumberjacks. Why stay in the northern part of the state, and why go swim at NAU?
So I thought about swimming in other places, but with my medical bills, it just made more sense to stay in state. And swimming or doing any sport is very hard to get into in Arizona because every school here is D1. And so I have a connection with the head coach here. Obviously, I've had since I was 12, but I've also known him because our club teams swim together sometimes. And so I just got to talking with him, and he has always had a spot for me. He always knew that he wanted me to be a member of the swim team because we just have that connection together. And so I think that's what made it so easy, is I felt so at home coming here. I also love Flagstaff. It makes me feel like I'm not in Arizona. It makes me feel like I'm in Colorado, not the desert. I don't like heat. I like snow. I like the cold. So Flagstaff made it easy to adapt, and I'm so happy to be a Lumberjack. I wouldn't have chose any other team.
Now, as you mentioned, the Lumberjacks do compete in the Western Athletic Conference, which is where my alma mater, Grand Canyon University, competes. Is it too late to recruit you to the Lopes, or are you pretty stuck with the Lumberjacks?
I'm pretty stuck with the Lumberjacks.
You talk about building that relationship with Coach Andy Johns over at Northern Arizona University. Obviously, for the longest time, Coach Gretchen Westbrook was your coach. Is there any kind of difference between the two coaches that you've noticed?
Definitely. One, obviously, he's a guy coach, so he's more like a dad to me than Gretchen. She's like a mom. He handles things differently, just like a mom and a dad would. But Andy, he's a lot stricter. He's a lot more serious. He's very sarcastic in his comments, where Gretchen's very bubbly personality. But they're two completely different people, and I'm happy with both of them.
I bet so. As you've gone through, Coach Westbrook has been actually really both coaches have been very prominent in your swimming career. Coach Westbrook maybe a little bit more directly than Coach Johns, but as you mentioned earlier, your relationship with Coach Johns has been building since you signed that honorary letter of commitment, and you knew that you wanted to swim for Coach Johns and the Lumberjacks, and now you're doing so. You're a part of the Western Athletic Conference. You're a part of the Northern Arizona University Lumberjacks, getting ready to finally get into the pool and get a chance to swim for the Lumberjacks. I know COVID-19 has been an absolute nightmare, but you, like a lot of people, had to adapt, and you were able to adapt, not being able to get into the pool in the beginning of the pandemic. There's a video that circulated, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Your training method. You I want to break it down a little bit, but you can get a little more specific, obviously. What I saw was you laying, it looked like a stool, like a bar stool, right on your stomach. You were going through the motions while somebody was throwing water at you to sort of simulate the conditions in the pool. First off, whose idea was that? And secondly, are there any other ways that you've been able to stay sharp, not being able to directly, swim in a pool or practice with your team?
Yeah, definitely. So that was just like a funny video that I saw. Someone else did it and I just wanted to do it because obviously I'm a swimmer, so I wanted to try it. My sister threw the bucket of water on me. I thought it'd be funny, and I thought other people needed a little sense of humor, as I'm a pretty funny person sometimes. And so I just wanted to bring some joy to the internet and let other people laugh like I had a fun time doing it. But during COVID and everything was shut down, all the pools were closed. So I just picked up some running. I ran 3 miles a day. I was boxing. I just jump roped. I just did everything I could that would keep me physically in shape so that when I got in the pool, I'd be not dying. But yeah, that's all I possibly could do until the pools opened. A lot of other people have their own pools, so they found ways to just swim stationary. Well, I needed to find other ways to do that. So yeah, I just found my own ways.
Yeah, you
broke out the bar stool.
Right. Any other sort of, you mentioned boxing, a lot of cardio. So I would assume as a swimmer, cardio is probably one of the more prominent things to focus on. Boxing, a lot of hand movements in boxing, a lot of upper respiratory usage. You mentioned running, of course. Is there any kind of weirder ones that you do to sort of stay sharp outside of, having buckets of water thrown on you?
No, just like the typical, just like push-ups and plyometric stuff that can help me with still being able to push off the wall hard or keeping my pull strong. So I used a lot of bands like I used on the bar stool to keep my pull strong so that I could get back in and be as close to a shape as I could be.
And again, we are speaking with former Mingus Union High School swimmer and current swimmer for Northern Arizona University, Emma Warner. At NAU, Emma, not only are you going to be swimming, but you're going to be majoring in public health with a minor in psychology and possibly moving into the accelerated nursing program. Can we talk a little bit about your decision for your major to go into public health as opposed to literally anything else?
So since I've been diagnosed, I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to give back to the healthcare community. And with COVID going on, I thought public health is the perfect career to go into. You can help in so many different ways. Public health has so many different opportunities. And it's also a really good career to have on the back burner if I didn't want to do nursing anymore, or when I'm retired, if I wanted to own a hospital or something. It just gives me a good backbone to have. And it's also really good for what's going on right now. It's really helping me have a bigger picture of what I want to do with my life.
As we all know, we've mentioned it a few times. I feel like I've been mentioning it forever is, COVID-19 going on. And obviously there are nurses that are needed here, not only in Arizona, but throughout the entire world. Very admirable of you to go into the public health field and to want to help people who are in a similar situation like yourself, who are going through a tough time with cancer or going through a tough time with this virus. And it's quite incredible to be selfless like that and go into a career field that really does benefit a lot of people. Where does the minor in psychology come from? Are you just interested in psychology or just trying to get into the heads of people?
I definitely love psychology so much. I love how the brain functions. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. I would never major in it though, because that would require me to take more math, and I don't want to take any more math. Calculus is not something I would like to do.
Because I'm good at math.
Yeah. So I would definitely do psychology, but I thought I could be used elsewhere, and having the backbone in psychology can just give me a bigger picture on how people's brains work in other fields, in other ways that people don't know.
Well, Emma, as we mentioned earlier, you're still going through the treatments with thyroid cancer and something that's been affecting you since you were 12 years old. Before we let you go, do you have any kind of words of encouragement to anybody who might be going through the same thing, or any swimmers who are out of the water right now who can't keep training? Any words of encouragement to them?
Just stay strong. I know it's really hard. Stay positive also. It's really hard during these times to think outside the box and be positive, but there's other ways to stay fit. This is only a temporary thing. This is just a setback that needed to happen, and definitely keep washing your hands, mask up, because where the pools are going to open again and everyone's going to get to swim again. There's so many different opportunities that you can find during this time. You can find yourself again. You can maybe find another hobby that you like just as much. I definitely found many different things that I enjoyed during this time. But just stay positive and everything will be okay. And we're going to get through this.
Very good words of encouragement from Emma Warner, current Northern Arizona University swimmer. Emma, we can't wait to find out what you do in the water. We're getting really close. Well, I know that maybe you can fill in for me. NAU is currently on a pause with their swim season right now. And I know that you're kind of itching and scratching to get back in the pool, but hopefully by the summertime, you'll be able to do so. But I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. It is incredibly inspiring, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future, and best of luck. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. We also have our first meet against the GCU. We have a meet against GCU this Saturday, and California Baptist. It's our first meet of the season besides doing inter-squad meets. So stay tuned for results on that. And yeah.
Well, best of luck, Emma. And I hate to say it, go Lopes, but also go Emma Warner and the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. I'm crossed between two schools because I've spoken to you, but I went to GCU. So I got to figure out where my allegiance lies. But anyway, Emma, thank you very much for coming on the show, and best of luck going forward with the Lumberjacks.
Thank you so much.
No problem. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by current Mingus Marauder Zach Figy on the other side of this break. Off the bench, we'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm Philip Catafamo. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to thank you for tuning in each and every week as well. We will be talking wrestling on next week's show with Coconino High School boys wrestling coach Mike Schmieder, as well as new wrestling coach over at Bradshaw Mountain, Bud Nollet. And we'll also be joined by Prescott girls basketball coach Bobby Yoder. All of them are getting us ready and fired up for the upcoming winter season. All of that and a whole lot more right here on Off the Bench, only on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. For all my guests, I'm Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.